What's up, guys? Mason the Brock Henderson here, and this is Batwoman Season 1, Episode 7, Tell Me the Truth. I will tell you the truth. Your show sucks. And honestly, there's just so many things. It's really difficult to really break it all down into, what needs to be a shorter review. So I'll just sort of hit the key points. First of all, the editing is awful. So many moments where, first of all, you can't really tell exactly what's going on, and if you really think about everything that's happening, the way that they cut it doesn't make any sense. So the first one, for instance, is Rifle shoots at the guy through the window. Batwoman stops him, zips him up by his ankle, and then next thing you know, he's shooting himself off of the roof or off of the ceiling, while Batwoman's running away for whatever reason, and then we never see what happens. He's just, next thing you know, going after the guy again, working for Alice still. So don't know how he managed to escape out of the building, even though there are so many crows outside. So that makes sense. Also, the second time he goes after this scientist, all of a sudden, Alfred's daughter, Julia, or granddaughter? I don't remember. But anyway, she shows up. It may not even been his daughter, maybe his niece. I honestly don't remember how they're related because I just don't care. But she shows up for whatever reason, working for some organization, and then Rifle gets away because Batwoman stops Julia and zips up his feet, which then of course he just instantly cuts open because, as we know, all of Batwoman's weapons are just so easy to break out of, and just the editing on him was just so bad. Him escaping, next thing you know, it cuts to a shot of him jumping over a wall, and then it cuts to a shot of him running away, and just the cuts that they made, it was like they were jumping ahead 10 seconds every time they cut. And I'm just like, why are you doing this? Why are you cutting? This editing is terrible. It's like they, for some reason, think that we're too dumb to, realize, okay, he's getting away. So they, sped up the process. Oh, we don't have much time. So here, we're going to give you all of the steps of how he got away, okay? But it's going to be quicker. Okay? So you got to know exactly how he got away. He jumped over this wall, and then he ran down here, and then he jumped under a overhang, jumped under an overhang, and we have to show all of that to you in 3 seconds because that's all the time we have, so we're going to show you each step individually. Okay? Do you understand? I get their audience that likes this show is probably pretty dumb because anybody with a brain wouldn't like this show, so maybe that's who they're... I don't know. It's just really bad. And then later on, when they're in the room and Batwoman's there, and of course it's actually Julia, because of course it is. I'll talk about that whole scene in a second, but all of a sudden she gets shot by the gun, which Rifle has, even though he's in the room. How? Somebody explain this to me, because both Batwoman and Sophie are looking in the direction from where the shot came. And it's in this, it's like an apartment type building. And neither of them see Rifle just in the room. And then suddenly he's down outside. Just somehow gets out of the building with no issues, even though there's a ton of Crow agents in there. You have to explain some things here, and they don't. They don't even look over their shoulder, and then Rifle just burst in the room, or he was hiding in the van. Nothing. The shot comes from behind them, and then the next time we see Rifle, he's outside the building, and he's looking at the gun why didn't I kill her? That's it. Oh, so, yeah, the editing is terrible. Let's talk about some of the plot points. I'm going to try to really rush through these. First of all, this whole thing, which took up pretty much 75% of this episode, between Sophie and Kate and their whole romance and how she didn't want to get kicked out of the school and all this stuff, and then the what's called Alessandro's, I think is the name, the owner being all oh, they're gay, I don't want him in my place. This whole thing is just so dated, and it wasn't even a problem. I think this was in 2019. It wasn't even a problem in 2019. It hasn't been a problem for years, and yet for some reason they still want to perpetrate this whole idea that there's so many people out there that just hate gay people. It's no. Are there people? Yes, absolutely. They exist. They're idiots and they exist. You really want to hate somebody because of who they're dating? If they're dating somebody of the same sex, You can do that. It's your right. Most people are just going to look at you like you're an idiot, though. And honestly, cancel culture has gotten so ridiculous that even if you say one thing that's misconstrued as a homophobic or whatever phobic statement, if you say one thing that can be misconstrued if taken out of context, cancel culture will still cancel you. So clearly, we don't live in a society anymore that would allow a business owner like this to just so obviously be hating on people that are gay and get away with it. Like, he would have been shut down or canceled or whatever. You know, heck, Chick-fil-A at one time was being threatened to, and of course that wasn't going to happen because way too many people love their chicken sandwiches because they are brilliant. But, I mean, really, we live in that type of society, and we have been for several years now. Like, this is... I'm not even a big fan of it because I feel like we're getting a little too much, but we don't have that problem in our society. You know, and this whole thing when they're at the military place and they're just like, oh, we're taking down her award because she's gay. We don't like that here. Snap it over my leg, why don't I? And just throw it over my shoulder in the trash can. Because that's how I feel. And is this a thing? Probably not. They've probably already done something, you know, because idiot in office has probably already put something in place to make it where, no, it's okay now. You can go into the military and do whatever. You know, you could go into the military and be an extreme terrorist for the enemy, and that would be okay. So just that whole storyline, again, it's just so dated, and it's unnecessary. And it's also for a very small part of your audience, too. So you're isolating everybody else that doesn't really care about this stuff. Or just, you know, you go do you. Go ahead. It's just who you like. Congratulations. I don't really care. Can we just move on with the actual story? And it took up so much time. Oh my god. This is like, I mean, obviously it's been a storyline, her and Sophie and all this stuff, but they haven't really gone into this territory until now of the whole we're oppressed because this is who we are. It's like, first of all, it's not who you are. Who you are has a lot more to do with than just who you like, who you're attracted to. There's a lot more to you than that. Shocking, I know. Hollywood doesn't seem to think so, but there is. And they haven't really gone into this territory until this episode, and it was like, as soon as they stepped into it, that's all this episode was about. So that was just a whole lot to sit through. Then we gotta talk about Alice, because her story also doesn't make any sense. First of all, she has Mouse stab this guy, which, I don't know, like, Rifle couldn't kill him a couple times, and so then Mouse kills him for some reason. Okay, I guess you just wanted him dead, and instead of letting him do what he's supposed to do, you just decided, oh, well, you're not getting it done, so now I do. Why didn't you do it in the first place? There seems to be somebody that she is working with or working for that Rifle is talking about. Is like, she won't be happy about this. I don't know who the she is, but I'm assuming we'll probably find out. If I missed it, I apologize. I really zoned out a couple moments in this episode. I was just like, wait, what were we talking about? I had to rewind. So I don't know. Apparently, she also wanted to seem like that she was trying to kill Batwoman, but then took a part of out of the gun, so that way he didn't kill her. That's why he didn't kill her. I'm just like, okay, weird. Also, Mouse was apparently impersonating Kate's dad. Why? Well, apparently she wanted the wife, you know, his wife, Mary's mom. She wanted her to get back in his good graces somehow, I guess. But that doesn't make sense, because as soon as he gets back, she's gonna be like, "Oh, I'm so happy we're talking again." He's gonna be like, "What are you talking about, bitch? Get out of here!" Like, he didn't have that conversation with her. I don't think. I'm pretty sure that was Mouse, because it seems like he's been gone for maybe a couple days, which I'm just like, okay, did nobody find out that he was leaving for a while? Or what? What's going, like, when did they make this switch? Was it just for this episode? And if so, why was Mouse not pretending to be her dad at one point? You know, I don't know. I don't get it. It's just, it's something that they revealed at the end of this episode, that apparently he was pretending to be her dad and he was like somewhere else. And I'm just like, well, what? How did this all work? Again, the editing is terrible because you didn't show how this could be possible. You didn't have anybody say, "Oh, you're back early from your trip," or something along those lines to make us go, "Oh, okay, so that's how he snuck in." And all she said again was just getting what's her face back in their good graces or something along those lines. And I don't really understand because again, if she had that conversation with Mouse pretending to be the dad, then none of this makes sense. It's not like he's going to get back and be like, "Oh, yeah, yeah, no, I remember that conversation that we didn't have." So, I don't know. I really don't get it. I don't understand what the whole plan is, but maybe they'll explain what's going on and maybe they'll explain how all this worked. But from my point of view, it didn't really make any sense. And honestly, it was kind of, it did take a little bit away too, because Sophie did tell him at one point that Kate was Batwoman, and then she explained that it wasn't. She explained that she was mistaken. So it's like that scene now doesn't matter because even if she had told him, it wasn't her dad to begin with anyway. So what was the point of all of those scenes? So I don't know. My brain is just trying to comprehend what I'm being shown, and a lot of it doesn't make logical sense. It's all kind of rushed, put together, and seems like none of it really fits. And then we got to talk about that scene in the freaking apartment whenever Julia shows up pretending to be Batwoman, because, yeah, how dumb is that? How dumb is it? First of all, so the reason Sophie was there is because she was following the radioactive signature of the gun that, Rifle was supposed to have. So, how did all this work? If that's the case, were Kate and Luke and Julia also following that signal? If so, why did they take that moment to say, "Hey, I know we're tracking the signal of this gun that's supposed to be able to kill Batwoman and the Rifle has, but what if now is the time where we do this whole switcheroo thing where we show Sophie that Kate is not actually Batwoman? What if we do that now? Whenever there's a guy that has a gun that can kill Batwoman, what if we decide to do it now?" It's pretty stupid, right? Right? Everybody on board? Stupid idea? Let's do it. And if that's not the reason, if they just decided now's the time, how do they know to be there? How did they know to show up in that building where Sophie was going to be? I don't know. They don't explain any of it. Sophie doesn't even question, wait, why is Kate here? Like, this isn't her apartment. This is just a random building. So why is Kate here? I don't know. They don't explain it. In my mind, if I'm Sophie and I see Batwoman in this place and then all of a sudden Kate shows up in a place that she shouldn't be, my first thought is, wait, did you plan this? Did you plan this, right? Because there's no reason why you would be here. Now, what would make a lot more sense, which is something I'm pretty sure they've done on like Supergirl and maybe you've done on The Flash as well, is to have somebody else, like, to be talking with Sophie, like, invite her to another dinner date or something, or get coffee, and then Julia as Batwoman is going around saving somebody, or doing something, and Sophie can see, oh, Batwoman's there, Kate's here, well, clearly, I mean, that means you can't be Batwoman, instead of force, like, you see Batwoman and all of a sudden Kate's there too. She's like, what are you doing here? Well, what are you doing here? This isn't suspicious at all that you show up exactly where Batwoman is for no reason. And again, the fact that Batwoman was there to begin with really doesn't make any sense because we know how Sophie got there. We don't really know why Rifle was there, because obviously he was trying to track down Batwoman and kill her. So we don't really understand that. So are we just supposed to assume, like, they left all the clues for Sophie to find Batwoman there, and then Rifle is actually the one that found him, and so he's tracking her, and then Sophie tracked Rifle there? None of this makes any sense, is basically what I'm trying to say. None of it makes any sense whatsoever. It's all just stupidly put together. There's no real good plot. They focus more on pandering and propaganda rather than telling a good story, which means nobody's having fun. The people that feel represented by this, even they have to at some point say, okay, but these stories are dumb. And Kate is represented so stupidly. Like, I cannot imagine anybody enjoying this, in all honesty. Like, I don't understand how they thought a lot of these ideas, a lot of these plot points, how they're good ideas. How do they make any sense from a logical point of view? Because when you really think about them, if you sit down and think about it for less than 5 seconds, you start to find plot holes in all of this. Like, wait a minute, but how did this happen? But wait a minute, how did this happen? Wait a minute, how did that happen? That's where I am. And if I'm being perfectly honest, there's a part of me that struggles to want to watch this show after the crisis. I'm only watching the show right now to build up to the crisis because I know Batwoman's going to be in it. And I assumed it was going to tie in more to the crisis this season, but in all honesty, it seems like it's just she's Batwoman, and that's kind of it. And it's all her story at the moment. So I'm not really seeing any reason why I needed to watch this before the crisis, and that's what's kind of really frustrating me. And honestly, I don't know if I really want to watch from here on out. I don't know if I want to try to spend more time dealing with this stupid show that doesn't know how to write stories and just for no reason whatsoever. Because as far as I know, there hasn't really been much of a crossover since this season that I'm on right now. So I might honestly just look it up and be like, is there any reason to watch Batwoman tying into the other CW shows, or can I just stop after the crisis? Because I'll finish this up, I'll see exactly what's going on building up to the crisis, but yeah, I'm at that point now where I'm just I don't really have a desire to watch. The show is clearly not for me because it's written for liberal women, gays, all of that group of people that I do not fit into because I'm a straight white conservative male. And of course, people might make people think that I'm a terrible person for being that because, of course, hating on me because of how I was born, that's okay because I'm a white male and that's fine. Hating on anybody else for how they were born, not okay. Makes sense. But clearly, I don't tie to this show at all. None of this show's writing is for me. But also, I'm not seeing anything good as far as a superhero show to get me interested in watching more. Yeah, and I feel like that's the biggest detriment that a lot of these CW shows have had, is their stories, if I can't connect to them, most of the time also the story itself, like the plot, the superhero stuff, is also not interesting. Where I've seen so many good examples of movies or TV shows or comics where the writing, the plot, it's not supposed to relate to me, but I can still get invested because the characters are so well defined and they're so well written and the action is good and the story surrounding the morals are good that, yeah, I can't necessarily relate to it. I mean, they're not bad morals, but I can't really relate to it. But I still get invested because it's a good story. This is the exact opposite. The morals, although I will say, being petty to petty people is not a good moral. Opening up the gay bar like, ooh, you don't like gays? Well, I'm just going to put the gays right in front of you. Like, that's kind of dumb because you're being just as petty as he is instead of just not giving him any attention because he doesn't deserve attention because he's an idiot. So that moral, I think, is a bad one to put out there. But everything else is like, yeah, it's fine. Like, none of the morals in the show are terrible and stuff you shouldn't be teaching kids. But the problem is there's nothing else good in it. Everything else is just so poorly done. I need to stop talking and just get to the final of the episodes before the crisis. And I'll look up and see if I need to watch the show after the crisis or if it's just going to be its own thing. Because I know it doesn't even keep Kate Kane beyond this first season, so I don't know. Maybe it gets better. Maybe that's a reason to watch it, but at the moment, I'm not seeing any reason why I want to continue watching, because this episode really broke me. Because it's already been bad, but this episode with all of their, propaganda and pandering that they threw in, and just really representing our world so poorly. Yeah, I'm not into it. So, anyways, on to the next episode. See you there. Now, episode 8. A mad tea party. Because she's so mad, guys. She's crazy. So crazy. That in fact she does all the stereotypical crazy things that you hear that crazy people do. Like, talking like this. And then suddenly getting all angry. And then... Oh, man. Honestly, there's probably going to be some stuff that I'm forgetting about because there's just so much stupid stuff throughout this episode that there's some stuff I remember being like upset throughout the whole thing. I remember just sitting there going, that's dumb. Well, that's dumb. Well, that's dumb. That, like, trying to think back on it now, I'm just like, what were some of the early things that I thought were really stupid? Because I've forgotten them now, because other stuff that happened later in the episode pissed me off, and now I'm focused on that instead of what was... Okay, so, they at least did have a good explanation as to the whole thing with Mouse impersonating Kate's dad. Apparently, I still don't understand how people didn't go, wait, weren't you out of town, like, yesterday? You're back already? There's no conversation about that. He just suddenly was starting impersonating him. There was kind of a question from Kate of like, wait, I thought you were out of town. Oh, I talked to her the morning I got back. When did you get back? Nothing along those lines. It was very simple to trick everyone. And then it wasn't until Kate was like, oh, wait a minute. She has a guy that can do really good impersonations on her side. Maybe it could be him impersonating my dad. But... So the whole point of it was just to get him in there, as well as, I guess, some of her guys onto the Crows team, which, again, I don't know how any of the Crows agents aren't just like, wait a minute, what? Like, okay, quick explanation here. Is it they brought the Crows team but slipped in a few guys that are a part of Alice's crew as well? If so, why didn't any of the Crows members go, wait a minute, who are they? I don't recognize them. So that probably wasn't it. But then the other thing that they could have done is just bring a Crows team that's actually a bunch of Alice's guys. But if that's the case, then how come all the Crows members that are normally on these missions didn't go, wait a minute, how come none of us are going? You know, how are you just going to be there by yourself? So, whatever the case, something stupid happened and some of Alice's guys got in, and then also Mouse as Kate's dad to poison both Catherine and Mary, which, of course... Catherine feels the effects of the poison first, so that way we can have this really, like, shocking reveal, even though they both drank the champagne at the same time. Shocking reveal, like, Mary's poison too, 20 minutes later, because, of course, that's how poison works. It affects people at different times, so that way you can have a very dramatic reveal later. Shocking. And so then, of course, Catherine dies, and they stretch out her death forever, because I guess we're supposed to feel bad. Did anybody feel bad? Really, did anybody feel bad about Catherine's death? If you did, please go see a psychiatrist so you can find out what's going on inside your brain. Because you're dumb. Because there's no reason to feel bad for her, because she's a terrible person, she's made terrible decisions, and I don't care if Mary cared for her. I still don't mind Mary as a character. I still think she's really annoying when she's not being her doctor self. But... even with her, like, very upset, obviously, about her mom dying, I still don't give a crap. Look at all the shit that she's done. All the horrible stuff that she's invented or made. You know, apparently she made a poison, but didn't even bother to make an antidote for it. How crappy is that? She made a gun that could kill Batman. Or Batwoman. She convinced her husband and his daughter, or tried to convince his daughter at least, that Alice was dead. Or Beth was dead. She's done some awful, shitty things, and yet for some reason we're supposed to care that she's dying. And even at the end, Mary talking to Kate, you know, she's not a bad person, even though you and Alice seem to think so. I'm like, why? Because she's your mom? Guess what? Newsflash, your mom can be a bad person. I know it's shocking to think that. but it's possible. Just because you don't think she is doesn't mean she's not. So. Oh, man. So they stretched out that scene way too long, and then Kate, as dumb as she is, walks right into Alice's place, finds out about what's going on with her dad. Which actually, I can't even remember the first reason she went in there, but she went in there, didn't do anything, and walked out. They had this conversation about how she still thinks she's Beth. And she's like, you don't understand. Beth is gone. And then she keeps calling her sister throughout and is like, our dad. So I'm just like, wait a minute. So is Beth gone or is she not? Because if she's gone, then you're no longer her sister. And that's no longer your father. Because you're somebody completely new. Or is this whole part of your crazy character because you're so mad? So that whole conversation happens. Nothing happens. You know, Kate could have easily taken all the guys in there and probably taken her in. But no, she just walks out because it's what she wants to do. Of course, the opening scene. Hilarious. So bad, it was freaking hysterical to watch. Because she shows up in an alleyway where there's this... One of Alice's crew is running away from something. Who knows? And then she just shows up in the alleyway. She breaks the staff that she has for some reason. Because, I don't know. I guess it works better that way. She did it later in the episode, too. I don't know if that one actually is detachable. Because, like, Luke says it's impossible to do that or they don't do that or something. I'm like, but it's possible because I've seen it happen in other shows. I've seen other... like, it's not an unknown concept to having something that can break apart into two separate weapons and be connected into one big weapon. Like, that's not such a weird concept, and Luke talked about it like it was completely unheard of. But she breaks it in the alleyway, and she's like, give me your coat. The guy... This is vintage, bitch. Who talks like that? And then she throws it at him. And, like, I don't even know if I can do this scene justice just talking about it. But it was so stiff. You know, it wasn't like a fluid, you know, you've got somebody who's supposedly trained in the art of, I don't know, martial arts and all of this stuff. The way she threw it, it's just like the way she throws a battle ring. Like, it's just no body movement. I'm trying to say motion and movement at the same time. No body movement to get into it and really put your full force into it. She just kind of throws one of the halves at him, to which he, okay, takes it off. And, like, it was just this weird... I don't even know how to describe it. The directing on the scene must have just been done by a toddler. Because it was so stupid. I couldn't help but die laughing at it. It was so dumb. Oh, I've seen better choreographed fight scenes at, like, I don't know. I'm trying to think of a good example. Like a Chuck E. Cheese, the mascots, a baseball game, like fighting scenes between the mascots there. I've seen better fight scenes than what was shown in this show. Oh, man. But anyways, so yeah, she goes, though, to see Alice a second time, hears about her father being kidnapped, and then goes exactly where she tells her. Because obviously, she's going to tell you where he is, right? Like, you've been fooled by her multiple times. So, of course, being fooled by her again, perfectly in character for Kate, because she's stupid. What is it after, like, fool me twice? Because, like, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Fool me 3 times... You're stupid. Fool me 4 times. Or no, I'm stupid. Fool me 4 times. I really need to go to school. Fool me 5 times. Maybe I really should have studied harder. Fool me 6 times. You know, maybe I shouldn't have eaten paste as a kid. Fool me 8 times. Maybe I'm Kate Kane. Fool me 9 times. I don't know. We'll see what happens when she gets fooled a 9th time. But, God, just basically plays right into her hands. And we're just like, don't get me wrong. I get the fact you're trying to do that. You're trying to show that Alice is just that intelligent that she managed to trick her. But the more you do that, the more I lose confidence that our main character is going to be able to win the day. You know, you look at a show like The Flash or Arrow, you look at both of those shows, they also have moments where the villain gets the better of them, but then they have moments where they turn the tables on the villain. And then the villain has to recalculate and do something to try to one-up them. They have moments of both. In this first half of this season, it's been just constantly Alice she's winning. She's so much smarter than Kate. You're proving it again and again. The only thing that Kate has on her side is she thinks that she can convince her to go back to being Beth and stop being Alice and stop being crazy, which of course is never going to work. But that's basically it. And she just keeps falling for her traps, falling for her traps, falling for the traps. Why am I supposed to get invested in a superhero that can't even figure simple things out, can't even realize when she's being tricked? Because it happens a whole hell of a lot. Okay, so I'm trying to remember if there was anything else before I talk about the crowning stupid thing in this episode. The father getting arrested, I mean, again, Sophie said it at the end of this episode. Like, I have a dart hole in my neck to prove otherwise. So they're going to be able to just go in and say, hey, we know this inmate, he broke out recently, very good at imitation, probably put on a mask and pretended to be him. That's basically it. And I'm sure they'll be like, oh, you don't have any proof, so we're not going to believe a word you say, because obviously you have no reason to lie to us, so we don't believe you. So they'll probably do all that. But no, let's talk about the really dumb thing. And that is, of course, Sophie and whatever his name is. Tyler. Pretty sure it's Tyler. Let's talk about this, right? Because obviously, they've been together. We haven't hardly seen them together, except for a couple episodes where we really needed to, shove it in your face that, oh, Kate's so sad because she can't have Sophie. So they'll just bring him up randomly in those moments. So, of course, just sort of waiting for something bad to happen between them so that way it sort of opens up the door for Kate to step in so that way, your main character can have successfully split up a marriage and have her way, because clearly that doesn't make her an awful person. So this episode, we already had in the last one, he finds out that apparently Sophie and Kate had a thing. And he takes it fine, but there's this moment where he's just like, but do you still have feelings for her? And she doesn't really answer. So I'm just like, oh, does she? Does she still have feelings? Oh my gosh, all of the Kate and Sophie shippers are going to be so happy that they can finally end up together because they're soulmates. So already you could see where they're going with it. It's the same thing that happened in Supergirl. They introduced this William guy, I think his name was. They introduce him, but he's married. But then all of a sudden you find out, oh wait, he's got a heart of gold even though he's acting like a jerk. Oh, he's putting on that facade. Oh, he's not even married. Win. Supergirl and William all the way. Because anytime they introduce I guess for Supergirl it would be anytime they introduce an attractive guy. For Kate, it'll be anytime they introduce an attractive girl. But I just knew this was going to happen at some point. They were going to split them up. And sure enough, in this episode, we have more talking about that, even in moments where it doesn't fit. And this is what made it so dumb. Like, if they had those moments throughout this episode, I'd be like, whatever. But the problem is when they have those moments. In the first instance, they do have a little talk early on in the episode when they're sitting in his office or something. But then they get shot in the neck with a dart, tied to chairs, and then they wake up. And, yeah, sure enough, what's the first thing Tyler starts talking about? So, do you still have feelings for Kate? Does she still have feelings for you? Dude, is now the time? Oh, you're cutting that with our engagement ring? Do you still want it? How about you get out of this situation first and go, help? Go stop Alice and her evil plans before you start talking about all of this stuff that doesn't really matter at the moment? And then, at the end of the episode, Sophie's on the phone. She gets off the phone with the GCPD after them telling her that no, they don't believe what she's saying. So their commander-in-chief, is missing in action. He's been arrested. They need to prove, because they have the information to show that he didn't do this. And what does he bring up? Do you still love me? Are you in love with me? Then tell me the truth. Now is not the time! Your commander was just arrested. He was framed for murder. Now's the time to be organizing all your resources. Is there any video proof to show what Mouse did to you? Is there any sort of evidence that you can take to the GCPD to help him get out of there? Is there anything you can do to find Alice, track her and Mouse down? Is there anything you can do? No. Sophie, do you still love me? I need to know this now. I know we've got a lot on our plate. I know we're dealing with a whole lot here at work, but I need you to tell me now, because now is the only time that we can talk about this. You're an idiot! So, that being said, I actually didn't look up yet whether or not this show continues to connect to the other CW shows after the Crisis or not. So I'm still up in the air whether or not I'm going to continue with these reviews, but yeah, before I talk about the one scene that connected to the Crisis, let's talk about this first half of the season. It sucked. I don't know if I made that apparent or not. I don't know if I gave you enough reasons as to why it sucked. If you enjoyed it, fine. Whether you enjoy it ironically or whether you enjoy it for real, I don't know how you could, but congratulations. If you felt something for this show, I'm happy for you. For me personally, I do not understand how, because of how well some of the other CW shows are made, I can't understand some of the mistakes and some of the issues and some of the writing problems that this show has had. You know, I've seen it in Supergirl, but for the most part in the other shows, any problem that I have has mainly been down to characters, and character decisions. And again, that is some writing. I will admit that. There's been some writing problems in Arrow for sure when it comes to Felicity. But this show, it's so poorly made on every level. Where in Arrow, I can at least appreciate the fight scenes. I can at least appreciate, some of the acting in it. Supergirl, the acting is also really good. I don't feel anything for any of these characters. The acting's not that great. Mary is probably the closest to being solid throughout. But, Kate and her father, both kind of bland. Catherine really had some stinker moments in this one where it's just like, can you emote a little bit, please? Instead of just giving a blank, like, oh no. Something. Alice, again, she's so, I want you to think that I'm crazy, so I'm going to do everything that crazy people do in all the shows. Like move my hands like this, and then suddenly talk loud, and then talk really softly. Put my hands like this to tell you that I'm crazy. It doesn't feel genuine. It looks like somebody putting on a performance. And, you can say, oh, well, she is putting on a performance. Yeah, she is. But that's part of the problem is I want to believe that this character actually is crazy. I want to believe that this character exists in this world. But I do not. I look at Jerome in Gotham and Jeremiah, I believe that those characters exist in that world because Cameron Monaghan nails those roles. I don't see Cameron Monaghan in them. When I play Jedi Fallen Order, I don't look at him and say, oh, hey, look, it's the same guy that plays, Jerome. No, I look at that character and I think, oh, I've already forgotten his name now. But I see the difference between the two. For Alice, I don't really see Alice. I see somebody pretending to be a crazy person. I see an actress in a role. And I don't know if that's down to her or whether it's down to the directing. But whatever the case, there's just so many things that don't work in the show. And it's really, really hard for me to feel motivated to continue to see where it's going to go because at least for Supergirl, it's bad, but it's not so bad on every level that it's hard to watch. With Batwoman, it's hard to watch because of how bad all of it is. So, yeah, like I said, I'll look up and see if it still connects. If it, I don't know, I'll look up some reports too. If it gets better after Kate leaves, maybe I'll check it out and just see what happens with it. But at the moment, it's rough. But I guess I don't have much time left before my space runs out on my tablet. The crossover thing, we see Nash I don't know if it's going to be the same like clip that they show at the end of all of these episodes, because they did that last crossover. They had like the same clip show before, or the episode before the crossover event. So I don't know if they're going to do the same thing here or not, but yeah, don't know what's going on with Nash there. It seems like he maybe wants to work with the Monitor. He said he wanted to kill him, but maybe that changed. But I don't know. It kind of raised some questions. I am curious. I would like to talk about it a bit more, but of course, like I said, I'm nearly out of time, so I can't. But it's the only real thing that I was just kind of like, ooh, what's this? Because it has to do with the Crisis. But anyways, with all that being said, that's it for me. So let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. What were your thoughts on these 2 episodes? Let me know. We could talk about and discuss all that good stuff. Leave a like and subscribe for future Batwoman reviews, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.